Shalom, shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Yahweh be the true name of Heavenly Father. Yahushai be the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Jesus Christ. I want to give double honor to our apostles, double honor to our elders, the great millstone, on touch the truth and will well, and citation to hopefully pushes truth and honesty, sincerity. This is Brother Yawasap. Come to know lesson through the spirit power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. The update, end times, and events. And this lesson is coming to the spirit, just meditating on the state and the mindset of the people. All right, this is how bad it is as far as economic wise. You now have millions upon millions of Americans that are resulting to giving up their blood to pay bills. They're having to go donate plasma, just to make ends meet. And, this guy really briefly talks on it a little bit, so I'm going to play it. This is fair use, fair use. I'm not trying to make any type of income from this content or from this guy's content, just basically piggybacking off of the news report that he's sharing, what's going on in the United States and backing up what's going on with scriptures. All right, so listen up to what he has to say about it.
Things have gotten so bad for millions of Americans, many are resorting to selling their plasma in order to pay for things like concert tickets, for rent, even for car payments. Look at this.
I sold my plasma as a side hustle to help pay down some debt, and you guys had a lot of questions about it, so let's answer some of those.
Yeah, people have a lot of questions right now as to, is this legal? Is this something that can actually put money into my pocket? And the answer is yes. Look at this right here. It says middle-class Americans are selling their plasma to make ends meet. Last year, people in the U.S. made an estimated $4.7 billion selling their plasma. It says
That's a lot of money. A lot of money that's been made. Okay, which means a lot of people are doing this out of desperation. And I know personally of two people that have done this, have told me that, they basically made this route to try to make ends meet and make money. And it's a sad case when people have to resort to this. This is how bad things are. And you'll hear a quick clip, that he's going to share of a lady giving her testimony. Here it is. People are educated, have degrees. You got people that have doctorates and things like that are resorting to have to sell their plasma, which can be a painful process from what I've been told, just to make ends meet. And here it is. They're donating their plasma just for these elites and these devils at the top and the Epstein files just to drink it. So it's sick, man. But this is the state of America, how bad things are, which means this place is done.
donation centers are popping up in middle-class neighborhoods, including suburban strip malls and college towns. Yeah, these plasma centers are popping up all over the place because they realize that they can actually do good. Again, plasma is important, but the people that donate now are starting to see the rewards, where some people are making up to $1,000. I had a friend that I had no clue this was even happening, and he said that he was able to pay for his car payment, which is about $1,300. He was able to pay that with 1 month of donating plasma. Look at this right here.
This is your sign to go donate plasma at BioLife and get $800 in your first month. It's super easy. The first time you go in, it does take a few hours, so make sure you have time in your day for it. But you literally just go in, fill out a questionnaire, have a checkup with a nurse, and then they hook you up to a machine, and it takes less than an hour for them to finish spinning your plasma out. And then they give you a debit card, and it immediately charges your card every time you donate.
Interesting. So every time you go and donate, they give you this debit card, and every time the money goes right to that debit card, and you can go and take it out, you can go and spend it, whatever you want to do with it. Well, here's what's interesting. She was saying that now's your time to go make $800. What would $800 do for you? Let me just ask you this. Because guess what? Donating plasma is not a one-time thing. You can just do it once if you want to, but you can also go in multiple times a month. You can actually go in, I believe, twice a week.
Now, with that said, this is from Google. I just Googled how many jobs were lost in 2026. Remember, keep in mind, we're in the middle of February, currently February 15th. All right, this is the day the ancient festival of Lupercalia was celebrated, aka today it's called Valentine's Day, which they celebrated yesterday, February 14th, but really it's Lupercalia. All right, but January 20 of 2026, all right, announced 108,435 job cuts. That's in just in 1 month, man. The first month of 2026 is the highest for the month since 2009 and a 118% increase from a year prior. Major layoffs were driven by restructuring, contract losses, notably at UPS, and AI adoption. Despite high profile layoffs, the overall economy added 130,000 jobs in January 2026. It says key details regarding the job losses in early 2026. Sector impact. The transportation sector was the hardest hit due to UPS reducing 31,000 positions. So there's plenty of jobs available, but, well, I don't want to say there's plenty of jobs. There's not plenty of jobs available. They added more jobs, but that's still, you got over 100,000 people that lost it just in the first month. And there's positions there, but these companies can't afford to hire these people. A lot of them are switching towards AI. It says Tech and Corporation cuts. Amazon plan to cut 16,000 corporate roles. Federal government employment declined 34,000 in January. Total trends, why 435,000 jobs were cut in 108,435 were cut in January 2026. This was partially offset by hiring in other sectors such as healthcare. Context, the high number of layoffs is partially due to companies adjusting to the economic conditions and shifting focus towards artificial intelligence, so AI. Which is AI is a thing that's here to stay. It's permanent. It's not going to change. So this is how bad it is. You got people that had status or higher positions over the U.S. are having to resort to, laying on a table and giving their plasma for income.
A month. You can actually go in, I believe, twice a week. Okay? You can go, I believe, twice a week. You have to wait at least 48 hours in between donations. But again, you can go multiple times. So let's say you go twice a week and you do this every single month. That's 8 times a month that you can do it. For some centers, just to give you an idea, like CSL Plasma, they will pay you up to $100 every single donation. Okay? It's interesting. It also varies by location, varies by your weight, because people that weigh more, that are a little bit bigger, they can also donate more. Again, very interesting. I want to play some for you. Listen to this right here.
America's newest side hustle isn't your usual gig, and it tells a prickly story about the U.S. economy. People selling blood just to get by.
It was out of necessity.
Like Ian Pleasant, who started donating at this center outside Philadelphia after being hit by a car and breaking his leg.
It was a lifesaver. It even paid my rent.
A lifesaver for him and the patients on the other end, with researchers saying the U.S. provides around 70% of the world's plasma, that gooey substance that transports the essential cells and nutrients our body needs. Ian is one of an estimated 200,000 people that walk into plasma centers like this every day across the country to sell their blood plasma for money.
People will come in and use this money to supplement their income. For a lot of people, it's their lifeline to afford that. Their income. For a lot of people, it's their lifeline to afford that little thing that's extra.
A booming market worth more than $30 billion now, pumping through the veins of American households. Collections up about 30% in the last 3 years. There are now more plasma centers than Costco's across the nation.
Wow. There are more plasma centers than Costco's across the nation. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay? This is interesting. Now, again, I said this earlier. I didn't know this was a thing. I knew people donated plasma. I didn't know the American people were going into these centers, multiple times a week in order to donate. But That donation is what is keeping them afloat. Okay? Again, like I said, a friend of mine was able to pay for his car payment because of his donations at a plasma center. I had no clue this was a thing until then I started reaching out and figuring out, yes, this is a thing. Somebody actually commented on a post on Reddit that they were able to pay for Super Bowl tickets by selling their plasma.
This is how bad it is, man. And this is how bad the Brother Circus is. People are so desperate for some type of good time or escape. You know, they've been willing to give a part of their life source, you know, just to go to a thing that's freaking rigged, man. You know, this is the state. This is the state of the union or the condition of of America, man. It's this bad. And you seen the post that said it's up 30%. People are having to do this. Okay.
Okay. Now, again, you're only getting so much money. Now, my guess is they weren't sitting front row, but again, they're still able to go to the Super Bowl in order, or as a result of selling their plasma. So, again, very interesting. I want to play another clip for you. Listen to this one right here.
So I really have gotten to the point of broke in which I am gladly selling my blood for money or donating plasma, but I'm still getting paid for it, so.
So some people are so broke that they are donating plasma in order to get paid. Again, that's what they're calling their side hustle. It doesn't matter what it is that you do. Again, selling plasma is legal. This is legal. They're paying you to do something that is going to help other people. That's great. Okay, that is.
However, it's a risk, you know, because I had an ex-wife that did this, and she told me her testimony. You know, she basically started drifting off into unconsciousness, you know, while trying to do this out of desperation, you know, and you know, the nurses weren't very attentive, so she was almost out of there, you know, behind doing this. And this is what people are doing, man. This is how bad it is, man, the condition, the state. And it's just trickling on down, man. People are going through desperate measures to make ends meet. Groceries are so outrageously expensive, man. You can just buy like 6 or 7 items in your basket, just common items, you know, not even nothing fancy. You can just get the cheapest of the cheapest cuts of chicken or beef, and you're still, you know, with just 7 items in your basket looking at well over $50. You know, and that's for one meal. Things are tough.
Great. Now, I'm not here to tell you, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm not trying to give you any financial advice. Definitely not give you any health advice. Okay? But if that is something that you want to do, go and check it out. Just go, you know, type in where to sell plasma, you know, in Seattle, Washington, and, you know, Los Angeles, California, and, you know, Miami, Florida, whatever, wherever you live. Okay? Go Google it, and you'll probably find a donation center somewhere close by. And if that's what you want to do, great. Go try it out. But this is the reason I'm bringing this to your attention. Okay? Middle-class Americans are trying to find every way possible in order to make ends meet. Some are not paying their bills in order to have money so that they can put food on the table. Others are selling things for a loss in order to take some of that money that they're saving on payments. Like, I know people that have sold their car at a loss. And so they're selling their car at a loss. But in the meantime, they're able to pay off their debt a little bit faster. Okay? They're able to reduce some of their expenses. Again, it's interesting.
And it's all a debt-based system. These people are putting themselves in debt, and with interest kicking in, they have to owe more money. So people are losing more and more and more. They're losing their homes. You know, I got neighbors that are moving out because they just can't afford the rent, because you got landlords that are being slumlords because they can't afford to make repairs in the home because of the outrageous taxes, the expenses of everything. So it's trickling on down to everybody, man. You know, just even noticing a difference when the silver, you know, went skyrocket in price. You know, people went out of desperation and they hit up places that most common knowledge people don't know about. You know, such as thrift stores, and just getting, like, you know, some of the old pots and pans in there, and teapots and stuff that is made out of silver. It's sterling. A lot of stuff has been sitting on the stores and the thrift stores, for years. People, you can just go in there and just see abundance of stuff. Man, there's like nothing available. This shit is hard to find because everybody's catching on to look up for different ways and hustles to make money. I hit up like 3 different stores looking. I was like, man, I remember going to the thrift store as a kid and there would just be packed with antiques everywhere, seeing that stuff. And that shit is completely cleaned out, man. America's done.
I know people that they're buying a lot of gold and silver when things were sky high. When silver prices were at $110, people were buying massive amounts of silver. And now they're selling it at a loss. And so they're trying to figure out ways to make up for the losses that they're incurring. Selling plasma is one of them. Okay? I want to read something to you. Look at this right here. It says, hold up.
Whoa.
Right here it says, I'm making enough money now by doing DoorDash to keep up with the bills. But for anything else in the house, this is going to help out. This is what somebody said. It says about an hour later, the employee came back and collected a container of his straw-colored plasma that would be tested, frozen, and turned into medicines sold for a profit to patients around the world. It says it's a scene repeated by an estimated 200,000 people a day across the country as part of a multi-billion-dollar business fueled by a growing number of Americans willing to trade their blood for money in an economy where many have seen their job prospects weaken. Costs rise.
Now, the need for all that plasma is going to start to go down because they're getting an abundance. You get to a point to where everybody starts doing something and catching on to it. It gets too much. It's going to get to a point to where they're not going to need as much plasma. So then that's not even going to cut it. So what are people going to turn to? You see, Esau Edom is putting a squeeze on these Americans, man. This is how bad the desperation is getting. And this is why this devil is going to be brought down, man. Because, hey, look, people are willing to risk their lives, just to try to get some food on the table.
And savings dwindle. It says despite data that shows a relatively stable economy, middle-class Americans say they have had to start selling their plasma over the past year to cover basic expenses from medical bills to a winter coat.
It says despite data shows a relatively stable economy. That's the media twisting shit. There's no way in hell this is a stable economy. When you have people that have to resort to this economy is extremely unstable. It's not stable at all.
For their child. Again, this is what's happening. I want to show you one last one. Look at this. It says, I'm angry that I'm working this much, that I'm educated, that I'm articulate, that I have marketable skills, and that I'm reduced to selling my plasma. This is from Jill Chamberlain in Phoenix, who has gone from making $87,000 a year to $16.11 an hour after being laid off from her job overseeing the finances of a local business in 2024.
This is the sad story that's being spread across millions and millions of Americans. Being laid off, just losing their job, being fired, let go, hiring freezes. These companies can't afford to pay for as amount of people that are trying to get employment. And then you have technology coming in, AI. So any type of business that deals with some type of technology, any aspects of like cell phones or computers, you try to call a place or call center, you're automatically talking to an AI bot. They don't need to hire somebody to take intake calls, and for a lot of different reasons, man. People are using a lot of tech to get what they need with this AI stuff. So, hey, everything is falling down, man. This is Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. People are truly in a state of mourning. The mirth is gone. Super Bowl, nobody was really talking about that much. They had to go out. They keep going to have to go out their way with extravagant ideas, to get people hooked, So they had, Bad Bunny perform, and he's supposed to be the first performer that sung everything entire in Spanish, So that created controversy. So people tuned into it, They had this whole thing with Cardi B and Stefan Diggs going on, the whole fallout with that, you know. That's a lot of distractions set up, man. And they released all these Epstein files, man. So it's got everybody pissed off. You got a clip this one dude screaming in the airport, He's like, "You guys all acting normal. They released the files. You all acting normal, right, man?" People are starting to see how evil and sinister this place is. So people are mourning, okay? Because of the state condition, they're starting to realize how oppressed they are. And the system they trusted in is full of satanic demon people, that are PDF file people, if you know what I'm referring to, that delight in cannibalism with infants and all sorts of shit. By the way, the files have been released, according to what they're saying. So, but a lot of them are blacked out. Names are blacked out, but the information's out there and it's got people set on fire. The people are mourning. This is Matthew 24:12. It says, "Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." Right? Sin, iniquity has taken over this nation. So people are all in the mindset, what they don't know is subliminally worshiping the spiritual demon Satan. People are becoming more and more demonic in the masses scale. It's true. This place has truly become like the days of Noah. Where the Lord had to flood the earth because of how bad and wicked the people are. When you got an entire nation of elites, of the politics and leaders that are all involved in child sacrifice, and these files are coming out, the whole leadership nation's involved in that shit. Hey, that's it. This place is truly, basically worse than it was before the days of Noah. It's the same stage and level of Sodom and Gomorrah. All the people are turned to wickedness. This is 2 Esdras 14:17. "For look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. And these evils surely have increased." So the Lord has stripped the mirth. People were mourning. Like, look at this shit, man. I just came across this post. This is local Kansas City news from KCTV5. It says, "Some school districts cancel class pictures after social media posts linked a billionaire with ties to Jeffrey Epstein to the photography giant Lifetouch." Right, man. All the company that's responsible for taking all your school's pictures. I know they took all my pictures of school coming up. Seeing that logo, that Lifetouch logo. They come in there, take your pictures. Those pictures were being funneled to these elites members, man, so they could take their pick and go shopping on who they wanted to abduct for their rituals. It's sick. It's sickening. But this is how bad it's spreading to where the point I see in local news is posting this. You got school districts canceling the photos behind this. People that was to be an exciting thing. Everybody get ready, once a year to take their picture for school. Give your photos out to the family members and stuff, man. And now you got to be fearful of even taking a school picture because this is what is involved or tied to it. Look at this, man. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. Okay, and this is the official day. On the 15th is the day that Lupercalia was officially celebrated, but they changed the celebration to yesterday, the 14th. But it says nearly half of U.S. adults will be single or unpartnered this Valentine's Day. Roughly 117 million adults nationwide. Wow, man. I was just talking to with the brothers at camp, and I guess there's a trend going on where these women were like doing like some type of like girls' night of just hanging out together, because all of them lonely as shit. None of them had dates. It's bad, man. It says Valentine's Day is looking very different in 2026. New data shows nearly half the U.S. adults are single or unpartnered, translating to roughly 117 million people spending the holiday solo. That's because the love of many has waxed cold. Okay? It says What was once seen as a couples only celebration is now becoming a massive cultural shift, with independence and self focus replacing traditional romance for millions. Experts say changing dating norms, rising living costs, and shifting priorities are driving the trend. Many adults are delaying relationships to focus on careers, finances, or personal growth, while others are opting out. Okay, so this is it, man. This is while others are opting out of modern dating entirely. I've basically been in that same spirit, man. Just sick of it, man. I'm sick of the evil. These women are just so horrible. It's just the dating market is just full of a bunch of lonely ass baby mamas that are extremely proud, that are so overinflated with pride, like they don't even realize that they're alone and lonely. They're so damn prideful, man. It's bad. And you gotta take on so much trauma on just dealing with them. It says social media has also normalized the idea that being single is not a setback but a lifestyle choice. Brands are already adapting. Instead of pushing roses and candlelit dinners, companies are marketing self-care, solo travel, and friend-based celebrations. In a twist nobody predicted years ago, Valentine's Day is quietly evolving from a love holiday into a reflection of modern independence across America, which that has nothing to do with the actual pagan day itself. Was the celebration of fertility and sex and relationships. They worship that. It's called Lupercalia. It was a lot of blood sacrifice and rituals, and they were running on the streets naked, whipping each other, giving, and then they also would put their names in a box and draw it out to do matchmaking sessions. That's where that whole Valentine's Day card bullshit comes from. It all comes from that pagan ass day. So you can't just take a day that's focused on that and try to shift it to something else. No, people just gonna give a shit about it. And they're not doing it, because they like it. It's just the pain that's involved. Look at this, man. It says Valentine's Day 2026 survey says some going into debt despite lower spending. Some might want to temper their expectations of expensive gifts and outings to celebrate Valentine's Day. Tighter budgets are causing many people to dial back on spending for the holiday, and a good chunk of those in relationships plan to forgo gift giving altogether, according to consumer surveys. Right, man, because how bad it is. Like, they can't afford it. This is Hosea 2:11. It says, I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. So the Lord is judging Babylon today. We're seeing it play out. People are having to donate their plasma to make ends meet. Let alone you still got women having all these extreme expectations that you better spend $500 on a dinner, buy them a bouquet of roses and jewelry, and buy them a new dress, and then take them to the nicest restaurant. And if you don't, they're gonna cheat on you with another man and leave you. This is the mindset of all the women. So everybody, the men are just saying, fuck it. I might as well just focus on taking what little bit of money that I have, which is only a little bit, and focus it on myself. So you got men that are all in the same mindset of just chasing the bag and saying, fuck these women. So you got a lot of women out here now trying to go to singles dating events, and it's just full of women there. They're just having to walk out and leave. So the mirth has ceased, okay? This is Amos 5:21. It says, I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assembly. So the Lord hates these holidays, man. He hates this nation. Okay? Because all of it is evil. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, verse 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings. Right? Because the wicked are in authority. The people are mourning. Great mournings. The beginning of famine and great death. The beginning of wars. We see World War III starting. It says, and the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourge for a minute. Right? The money, man, is about to affect the food prices. You're going to have food shortages very soon. It says, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Right? People just still want to be wicked. Still. So the Lord is just going to send judgment, which he's doing. Is Ezekiel 7:19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of wrath of Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. Right? It's a stumbling block of trusting in the shadow of Egypt, of trusting in your careers and your jobs, and trusting in this country that everything's going to be okay, and that they have your best interests, when they could give a shit about you. What they want, though, is that plasma. They want your children. They want to do their sacrifices with them. Okay? They want to raise the prices and squeeze you more out of taxes and more money. So it's going to get to the point to where they're going to say, fuck the damn donating blood. That ain't good enough. People are just going to throw their cash in the street and have to resort to burning it. Just like what happened when the economy crashed in Venezuela. That's coming to hit this place. All that money is not going to be able to do shit for you very soon. It's not going to be able to stop the wrath of the Lord, because the punishment is on the way for all this wickedness. So you're going to see an economic crash behind this stuff, man. And don't be surprised of why things feel a little bit different every year. It's getting worse. Why? Because the evils are growing. And you should see the evil for this place is with this Epstein shit that's coming out. Like the Lord has lifted up the skirt of Esau, Edom, so he's fully exposed. You should know what it is now. So Lord's will, this lesson was edifying. I'm going to close out. Give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem HaKadosh. Double honors to our apostles and elders, great millstone, and Tasha's truth and will well. And citations to Jehovah, let truth and honesty, sincerity. Shalom.